have been a host of sharply contested Republican primaries in this election season. The results, taken all together, suggest the tension between Tea Party insurgents and the GOP establishment is here to stay. A similar dynamic is actually playing out here in Massachusetts, where 6th District Congressman John Tierney is facing a challenge from 4 members of his own party. One of them, Seth Moulton, is here with me today. Seth, thank you for being here. I want to talk to you about the race, but I got to start by asking you, as an Iraq War veteran, what's it been like to watch ISIS moving through Iraq and taking over big parts of the country that you fought in?
It's terrible. I mean, it's heart-wrenching as a veteran who spent so much of my life there trying to make Iraq work. But that doesn't mean we should go back in. And I came out strongly against putting troops on the ground to prop up this failing Iraqi government.
You were, remind me of your credentials, you were in the 1st Battalion into Baghdad, right?
Actually in the 1st Company of Marines into Baghdad in 2003. And then I came back again in 2004 as an infantry platoon commander. And then in 2005 I worked as a special assistant to General Petraeus. And then I got out and was all ready to go to grad school, but I was called back by Petraeus when he went back for the surge in 2007 and 2008.
You were opposed to the Iraq War, yet decided to fight in it. Why'd you do that?
Well, I joined the military because I wanted to serve after college, but I joined before September 11th. I joined before the war.
Okay. So you didn't sign up to fight in a war that you believed was unjust or inappropriate?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. But when my country asked me to serve, I was very proud to go so that nobody had to go in my place. And I went back to Iraq again and again so that no one had to go in my place.
This will be my last Iraq question, I promise, but do you think that there's any merit to the criticisms that say the president decided to draw down our troop force there too quickly, that he didn't listen to the Pentagon, and that in large part that's why ISIS has been able to do what they've done in recent weeks?
Well, I think where we went wrong was we didn't provide Iraq the political support that General Petraeus and Ambassador Crocker said they needed after the surge. When they came back and reported to Congress about the surge, they basically said 2 things. First, the military part of the surge has been very successful, but politically, we have not made as much progress as we needed to. And so we needed a diplomatic surge to follow the military surge, and I don't think we gave them enough support.
Okay, let's talk about John Tierney, who you're running against. What is your big issue with how the congressman has done his job?
Look, he's passed 1 bill in 18 years, so he's just not been an effective congressman. We have the least effective Congress in our nation's history today, and we have one of the country's least effective congressmen representing us here in the 6th District.
You put up a Tierney timeline which showed that he had passed 1 bill that he sponsored in his time as a congressman, but I think, is that still online, or did you guys take it down?
As far as I know,
as far as you know, it's still online. Okay. Is it at all unfair to lay the unproductivity of the current Congress at Congressman Tierney's feet? Because as you know, when President Obama was elected, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said that he was going to make him a 1-term president. I know a lot of people think Washington is broken, but a case could be made that Congress just hasn't been willing to work with the president, and that's why bills aren't getting passed.
Look, Congressman Joe Kennedy was elected just in 2012, and he's already passed 2 bills. Congressman Tierney has been in office for 18 years, not only during this Congress, but during the most productive Congress in years, in decades, in 2007, and yet he still only passed 1 bill.
Okay. Tell me a bit about your own political history. I understand you were unenrolled until not too long ago, correct, and then became a Democrat. Did you become a Democrat because you were going to run for Congress?
No, I didn't become a Democrat. I've always been a Democrat. I grew up.
You were never unenrolled, or?
I've always been a Democrat. That's
were you always a registered Democrat?
No, I wasn't a registered Democrat. Most voters in this district are unenrolled. But I've always been a Democrat. I've always identified with the Democratic Party, and I'm the strongest Democrat in this race. I mean, one of the concerns is that Congressman Tierney could very well lose to Richard Tassay in the general election. So we need a stronger Democrat to represent the party in this election.
You've talked a little about Congressman Tierney and your issues with him. Why are you stronger than Marisa DeFranco or the other 2 Democrats who are running?
Well, the polling, the polling shows that that's the case, and the fact of the matter is that it's time for a new generation of leadership in Washington, and we need someone who can go to Washington and get things done. And I think that my background and experience has proven that I can do that. I started a small business. We need people who understand business to bring jobs back to the 6th District, which has lost thousands of jobs over the Congressman's tenure.
For viewers who may not know, what is the business that you started?
So I started a healthcare company dealing with obesity, which is actually the biggest healthcare problem in America. Having a congressman who understands a bit about healthcare, I think, would help too, as we implement Obamacare and make sure that we make it work for all the American people.
we talked on TV about your problem with John Tierney only passing one bill or having only one bill passed that he had sponsored. What other criticisms, if any, do you have of the congressman's record?
Well, the fact of the matter is that he's not done anything to bring jobs to the district. The city of Lynn is a good example. The city of Lynn has lost thousands of jobs over the congressman's tenure. And we need a congressman who understands economic development to bring jobs back to the 6th district. There's a lot of potential in our district. We're right on the water. It's a great place to live. It's a historic manufacturing district. There are thousands of jobs coming back from China to America, but they're not coming here to Massachusetts.
As you know, though, it's tough for a president to change the course of a country economically. What could someone like Congressman Tierney do to turn around a city like Lynn? I actually used to live in Lynn. Has a ton of potential, I agree, but it has been going the wrong way. I shouldn't say going the wrong way. It's been dealing with serious challenges for a long time, ever since the shoe industry collapsed. So what could he do to, say, revivify Lynn?
You know, all you need to do is look at what Paul Tsongas did for Lowell. There was a man who was truly committed to economic development, to reviving a city that had really fallen on hard times, and he completely turned Lowell around. That's what you get when you have a congressman who's committed to jobs and the economy, who's committed to economic development. And that's the kind of congressman I'll be.
Okay, let's say you're elected to Congress and you get to try to turn around Lynn. What's the first thing you do to turn around that city?
The first thing you do is you need to bring together the leaders in the public sector and the private sector, because a congressman's job is to not just be someone who goes to Washington and votes on legislation there. It's someone who can be a convener in the district, someone who can bring together the leaders who can drive economic development in a city. And then you find out what kinds of things the private sector needs to build jobs. For example, there's been a lot of talk for years about bringing the Blue Line to Lynn, but no one has ever made it happen. And I've talked to a lot of people in the community of Lynn who say they've been knocking on the congressman's door for years to get him to do something, and he says, there's nothing I can do. That's the wrong approach. We need someone who's committed to change.
Okay, so increased odds of a Blue Line if there's a Congressman Moulton?
Look, I spent a year working on a high-speed rail project.
Right, in Texas, right?
That's right. And I went down there from Massachusetts to work on what I think will be the first high-speed railroad in the United States. So I actually have experience building transportation infrastructure. We had to work between the public sector and the private sector to bring together leaders from both sides to make this project happen. It's just been endorsed by the mayors of both cities, and it's moving forward. That's the kind of leadership and the kind of experience that we could benefit from in the 6th district.
In one of your campaign videos that I was watching, you made a statement like, Washington is broken, and fortunately, I'm a guy who likes to fix things.
Right.
Let me ask you about that statement, Washington is broken. Why is Washington broken? And is it something that both parties bear equal responsibility for, or is it more the fault of, say, the Republicans or the Democrats?
I think it's more the fault of the Republicans, but we can't be Democrats who just lay the blame at the Republicans and don't take any responsibility for fixing it ourselves. There are Democrats who are going to Washington who are getting things done for their districts and for the country. There are a lot of Democrats who are passing bills, even in this broken Congress, but Congressman Tierney is not one of them.
So who are some Democrats who you think are doing a good job, given the constraints they're operating under in D.C. right now, to legislate effectively?
So Representative Joe Kennedy is one for Massachusetts. Representative Tulsi Gabbard, who is a young veteran like myself, just recently elected after a tough primary fight in Hawaii. And she is doing this. She's reaching across the aisle. She's finding moderate Republicans, not compromising her principles, but finding Republicans that she can work with on common goals. And that's the kind of spirit of leadership we need.
Congressman Tierney, as you know, when he talks about Richard Tassay, who he narrowly beat 2 years ago, calls Richard Tassay a Tea Partier or a Tea Party Republican. He might have used the phrase Tea Party extremist at one point or another. Is Richard Tassay a Tea Partier or a Tea Party Republican, as you see him?
I've never seen him be equated with the Tea Party other than by Congressman Tierney. I know that's an effective campaign strategy, but I don't agree with Richard Tassay either. I'm a strong Democrat. He's a Republican. I think the Democrats in this district, I think the district wants a Democrat to represent them. And that's the game changer. So in 18 years, there's never been a strong Democrat to run against Congressman Tierney. So voters have never had a Democratic alternative. Congressman Tierney almost lost to Richard Tassay in the last election, and the most recent polling shows him losing this election by 5 points. We need a strong Democrat in this seat to win not only in 2014, but in 2016, in 2018, and in 2020.
What's it like to run against a member of your own party and have the brunt of the party's apparatus helping out your opponent? I just want to make sure I'm remembering correctly. Elizabeth Warren, his campaign for Congressman Tierney, correct?
Well, she endorsed him.
She endorsed him, okay. And maybe not. Has she campaigned in the field for him or not yet?
Well, we haven't seen that.
Okay.
But the fact
so
of the
she
matter
endorsed him, and the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, right, is working for the congressman? So is that it just sort of, and it's in a way, it's a subjective question. Is it frustrating to have the Democratic establishment working against you when you're running as a Democrat?
What's frustrating is that a lot of members of the Democratic establishment know that I'm a stronger Democrat and have told me that they want me to win this primary. You know, if I had $1 for every member of the Democratic establishment, even people in D.C., even other members of Congress.
Have you heard it from anyone in the delegation?
Look, there are a lot of people who have said, we want a stronger Democrat in this seat, but I'm not going to come out and support you. Because the fact of the matter is, Congress is a club. Incumbents support incumbents. They like to keep the status quo. They trade political favors. That's the system that we need to break. The Democratic establishment has gotten us the least effective Congress in our nation's history.
But I thought,
the establishment, not the Democratic establishment.
Okay.
It's more a Republican's fault. But the political establishment. The political establishment has gotten us the least effective Congress in our nation's history. And so a lot of the people out there are not with the political establishment. They're ready for new leadership. They're ready for change.
A couple more questions for you. You've got a sort of well-articulated case against Congressman Tierney. Let's say that you land the nomination and you're running against Richard Tassé. What's your case against Richard Tassé in a nutshell?
It's the same. I'm not going to change my message.
But he hasn't been there not legislating. I mean,
Richard Tassé has been in the state legislature since I was 6 years old, and he hasn't done much there. But more importantly, he's a Republican, and I'm a Democrat. And the voters of the 6th District, they want a Democrat to represent them. They just want a stronger Democrat than John Tierney.
The last couple of polls I saw, and I know there's been some question about whether they polled enough voters, showed you and Congressman Tierney fairly far apart. I recall 2 polls that showed the congressman at around 60%, maybe a little over, you and Marisa DeFranco, who's also challenging the congressman, at around 10% or maybe a couple points under. How realistic is it to argue that you can make up that much ground in a few weeks?
Oh, absolutely realistic. But first of all, there's 2 problems with the poll you're citing. It was put out by Congressman Tierney, so it was his polling firm.
Are we talking not the Emerson College Polling Society?
The one you're citing
is
the one.
I thought there were 2 that had comparable numbers, but
no. In the Emerson College poll, I had already doubled.
Okay, apologies for getting
my numbers
number
doubled.
Right? So where were you at in the Emerson poll?
The Emerson poll were at 17.
Okay.
So it's twice what I was a couple months ago.
Okay.
In this old poll put out by Congressman Tierney that you're citing. So the fact of the matter is that we are rapidly rising. Most people in the district, though, still don't know that I'm running. It's a name recognition thing. And when you're a first-time candidate for office, it takes time. You don't really see your name recognition go up until you have ads on TV. So once people understand who I am, those numbers will change. When we go out and meet voters in the district, I mean, it's amazing. I was at the Lynn Senior Center today. I didn't meet a single person who, after talking with me, said that he or she wanted to vote for the congressman. People want change, and so it's just a matter of meeting more people in the district and telling my story. And when we do that, people will be ready for an alternative.
If you don't win this primary, are you going to be back, or are you going to move on to other work, maybe more lucrative work?
No, I'll run again. This is important. I think that people are getting so frustrated with Congress because it is so broken, and Washington is just so hyper-partisan, that people often forget how important Congress is. You know, I wouldn't have been able to go to grad school after the war without the GI Bill. I wouldn't have been able to go to college without federal education loans, which I'm still paying back, by the way. So these are things put in place by Congress. Congress has done so much good for this country in the past. So what does it say about our future if Congress is broken today?
Seth Moulton, thank you. Thank you for sticking around. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
And good luck.
Thank you.